Hey guys, Jason here. In this video, I'll be doing something slightly different to what I normally would. If you wish to visit my channel and check out what I usually upload, click the button on the top right corner just about right now. Anyway, as y'all can read from the title of this video, I'll be ranking all 12 weapons, including all DLC weapons, in order from worst to best. And just before I start, I want to say that none of these weapons are actually terrible. It's just that some weapons do certain things more practically than others, and so I would use certain weapons more so than others. Also, I will only be using the best variant of each weapon for comparison. So this means I won't be comparing shadow bows with Banuk bows from the DLC. But that's enough for the intro. Let's get right into it. To be really honest, I never used this weapon ever again after I got the warbow during my first playthrough, and here's why. When you look at the stats, the elemental ratings on this weapon is almost double that of the warbow. However, when you really think about it, these stats are totally irrelevant because with the warbow, you can triple shot your arrows, unlike the sling, where you can only fire one bomb at a time. So really the stats for the warbow should be tripled. Also, with the DLC released, the new champion bow actually has the same ratings as the sling, so this means the true ratings for the champion bow is 3 times higher than the sling. How crazy is that? Another issue I have with this weapon is the fact that you can't use it to exploit elemental canisters on machines. With the warbow, you can fire an arrow at a canister, and that would trigger a big freeze or shock explosion, which is one of the core concepts of the combat system in Horizon. The sling, on the other hand, doesn't allow you to do that. So that's another reason why I always choose the warbow over this weapon. This is another weapon which I can't remember the last time I used it. Again, this weapon's not bad at all. In fact, some people love using it and can actually make it work. From what I've been seeing, what they do is freeze the machine first and then whip out the Rattler and just go ham with this thing. But that's just not my playstyle. I personally prefer the bow and arrow simply because I enjoy hitting machines' weak spots with an accurate shot, and trust me, the game rewards you greatly for doing so through some very satisfying sound and visual effects. I mean, just watch this short clip and tell me that's not the greatest feeling in gaming. Actually, forget everything I said in the intro. I hate this weapon. I absolutely despise it with a passion. Maybe it's because the game forced me to do a hunting grounds trial with this weapon in the DLC, but man, that had to be the most frustrating experience for me throughout the entire game. Even the stealth trials where I had to loot Shellwalker crates in under a minute wasn't as bad as that one. But enough with the ranting. I'll explain why I dislike this weapon so much. First and foremost, each reload costs 25 Sparker for the Stormslingek, which is easily the most out of all weapons in the game. Meanwhile, the Ice Rail, which is another DLC weapon, only costs 15 chill water per reload. So why on earth would the game make this particular weapon use up this many resources? But this is not its biggest problem, in my opinion. The biggest problem I have with it is the fact that you must fire 5 rounds in quick succession in order to reach its full damage potential. You see, the damage per round of this weapon increases as you fire more consecutive rounds, meaning the first 2 to 3 rounds do very little damage and only the 5th round does 100% of its damage stat, which is 105 on Ultra Hard. Now you might ask, hey, if you mod this thing with just handling mods, its firing rate would increase. So no big deal, right? Well, there's only one big issue. On Ultra Hard difficulty, and especially on Ultra Hard, this weapon is practically unusable because enemies are much more aggressive and multiple enemies can be attacking you at the same time. That's why on Ultra Hard, you should be dodge rolling most of the time and only fire a quick shot when there's a small window of opportunity. Here's the issue with the Stormslingek. It doesn't allow you to play this run and gun style, because otherwise, you'll end up only getting 2 to 3 shots off before having to dodge roll again, even with handling mods. This means you won't be doing any significant damage because remember, you only get the full damage output once you fire the 5th consecutive shot. In short, using this weapon in combat means you'll be a standing turret, having to fire all 5 rounds before you can move again, which leaves you in a super vulnerable position against multiple machines. I suppose this weapon would be more practical if you were only fighting against one machine at any given moment, for example, against a single Thunderjaw or a single Fireclaw. But even still, there are already other weapons which get the job done just as well without being a complete resource drain. I actually love the concept of this weapon. I mean, who doesn't love setting everyone on flames with a flamethrower in a video game? Not only that, but the Forgefire also comes with a secondary mode which can fire fireballs, which does some very decent damage. Pretty cool, right? Only one problem though, and this is a big one. Again, like the Stormslinger, the cost per reload for this thing is simply too high at 20 blaze per reload. As a comparison, the cost per reload for sticky bombs of the Blastling is 6 blaze per reload, and yet I still find that way too high, so I use the sticky bombs very sparingly. So you could imagine how I felt when I first found out that reloading this weapon would cost me 20 blaze. And besides, the Ice Rail does much more damage and costs less resources than the Forgefire, so there's literally no practical reason for me to use this weapon. Well, I certainly didn't expect the video to be this long. I was planning to do a 2-part series on this topic, but now I guess I'll have to make it 3. Anyway, that's it for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 where there will be more praises than criticisms. If you enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time.